Find your why. Your why can be monetary, but I think if that's your only why, I don't think that space that you're trying to enter is for you. There has to be something a little deeper, even if it's not a fully developed one.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Life Unedited, where we have real conversations with real people. Today, I'm talking to my guy Austin, or better known for me, Lobo, what we call him in the hoop space, the hoop in space. Funny enough, I only really know you from playing basketball. I don't know you outside of that all too much, and so I actually want to use this as an opportunity to really kind of deep dive into who you really are and just the type of person you are, and get to know your story and your why and what drives you, and just to learn a little bit more about you. So I'm excited, and thanks for, like I said, being willing to come on to this and scheduling out some time to just be on here. I appreciate it.
Of course, man, big moments for vulnerability is how we grow. And like you said, get to know each other in a more intimate space. And that's what builds community and whatnot. So I appreciate the opportunity.
100%. Yeah, of course. Of course. So as you know, every story has a beginning, and here on Life Unedited, I like to start with something I call the preface, which is just a quick rapid fire question game, just to kind of get your juices going and your brain
Okay.
flowing. Just say whatever comes to mind, and let's jump into it. Are you a coffee or tea person?
Coffee.
Nice. Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Morning or night person?
Ooh, morning. Definitely mornings.
Morning. Okay. What's the first concert you ever went to?
The Pack. Do you remember the Pack from out of like the Bay Area, Berkeley? Little rap group
Ah,
that was coming out of the hyphy movement when I was in high school, and
interesting.
they performed at the Boardwalk in Orangeville a lot.
If I
And
heard one of their songs, maybe by the
the
name,
van the Vans song, the Vans. You gotta get on game, bro.
I gotta check it out. I gotta check it out because I feel like I'm failing like
Yeah, nah, man.
Sacramento.
Not even, because they were just a perfect little like underground, rap group for high schoolers to like get down to. They weren't too crazy in the negative space.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. Fair enough. What's your favorite comfort food?
Mm. Oh, that's a tough question. I love so many types of foods. I'm just gonna go with breakfast food.
Okay, any breakfast food, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Are you a dog or cat person?
Dog all the way.
Yeah, 100%. Um, Pineapple on pizza or
Absolutely not.
thank thank you. Finally, a
Absolutely not,
sane
man.
human being.
Yeah.
Um, what's the last song you added to your playlist?
Cool. Let's go to Apple Music right now.
Yeah.
Cool thing about technology is you can answer certain questions.
On the spot.
I threw on the Beatles' greatest hits album. I used to listen to
Okay.
it a lot as a kid, and I realized I didn't have it on my Apple Music library, so I threw the Beatles on there.
Okay. I don't hate that. I don't
Yeah,
hate that. That's some good music.
absolutely.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing that, and hopefully that kind of got you a little bit warmed up. Now
I'm
let's
ready.
let's jump into your story. Let's get into it. The first question I kind of like asking everybody as soon as they come on is, tell me who you are beyond your job title. Like, who really is Austin?
Oh man, uh, it's funny you ask that, and you differentiate the difference between your career and your job title, because who I am is wrapped up very much into basketball. Um, you know, even in the basketball community, a lot of people know me as coach. And
Mm-hmm.
even as a player in college, I was still coaching. So now as an adult, you have to find that piece that differentiates you from a sport or a label like a career, right?
Right.
You know, I, I like to think of myself as just like a humble person that's just trying to leave an impact, one way or
Mm.
another.
Okay.
Nothing too crazy outside of that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good. That's good.
Mhm.
How did you get started in what you're doing? For those that don't know what you do, what is it exactly that you do on a daily basis? What is your career?
My career on a daily basis is basketball training and personal training, health coach, strength coach, couple, man of many hats when it comes to just really just being in the gym and helping people better
Hmm.
themselves. You know, I pride myself in taking in a lot of information when it comes to the human body, the brain, nutrition, weight room stuff,
Yeah.
even on like spiritual health side of things. And so I
Okay.
try to use the information that I get and that I'm passionate about, and I just try to use that to help people. Um, and so, on a daily basis, I'm training someone in a weight room. I'm talking with players, helping them, whether it's academically or just life balance or in the
Mhm.
gym or, whatever it takes. So that's kind of my
Yeah.
day to day. I'm a coach,
Right.
that's really my
Yeah.
title. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you get started in doing that?
Long story, it's funny. I've always thought about that. It's like, where did I decide I was going to be a coach?
Yeah, like
And
where when did it begin?
when did it start? And even as a young kid, I remember myself always wanting to give someone advice or help someone figure something out. I wasn't the greatest academic performer in school, but I was great at problem solving. And so being able to look at something from a wider scope and go, okay, here's a problem. What are the steps to that? And then it just, being an athlete from a very young age. My dad was a basketball guy, so I was around the game from an early age. It just kind of formed into that, just the body,
Mhm.
understanding the body, how it moves, how it functions, why does it feel good on one day versus another? And, what helps get more good days than bad days. And, just kind of, and then coaching started. In high school, I even volunteered for a lot of small group stuff. I was involved with a small group for church where we volunteered for, those charity drives and,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
helping out, those with less fortunate situations. I remember working for a bridge program in high school where you were basically like a counselor for middle schoolers that were transitioning to high school, and helping
Mm,
them get acclimated that were more at risk, considered at risk youth. Um,
interesting,
and then,
okay.
and then I started coaching as soon as I graduated high school. I didn't play college right out of high school. I got into coaching, and just helping out my coaches that coached me. And so it just kind of took off from there. I became a personal trainer in, I think I was 2021. So it's been over 10 years of that too. So it's just really taken off. It's always been there.
Jeez. Yeah, yeah. It's just like it's instilled in you.
Yeah, very much so.
You said you got into personal training. Did you start at like a gym, like a local gym or anything like that? Or
CalFit. CalFit.
really? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Funny
so I
enough.
worked at CalFit when I went to American River College for basketball. I was there for the 2 years, and during that time, I started off working CalFit, like, front desk and all that, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I was already into fitness. And being a college athlete, you have to be in the weight room, but I just had a
Yeah.
different affinity to it, understanding it and wanting to just dive deep into what's optimal. So I got certified and just kept reading and reading, and, here I am.
Yeah. Yeah. If you were to start today being a coach, would you approach it differently at all?
Oh, man, when I approach it differently. From a philosophical standpoint, no. Like, how I
Mm.
coach,
Hmm.
no, I would do things the same way. Start with the fundamentals and be mindful and, take your time in understanding yourself and how you work, because everyone's got a little bit of difference.
Yeah,
But as far
I
as from
like
like
that.
the business aspect, yeah, I mean, I would start under someone a little bit more knowledgeable. No shade on
Okay.
no shade on, like, big gyms and trainers in those gyms, but they don't get as nitty-gritty as, like, that strength coach that has a box gym in a small commercial
Yeah.
space. That
Right.
passion, that extra,
Hmm.
there's a little bit of dirt in the corner of that gym, because that coach is reading a book instead of cleaning, and that's where I think I would have taken on more mentors as a youngin,
Okay.
from a business standpoint, and I would have done that. I would have dove more into how to run a business. Um, I'm just now at 33 really understanding what it means. A lot of business concepts that I had heard and learned early on,
Hmm.
really starting to understand them now. So if I could have started earlier in that realm, I would have.
Hmm. Okay. If there was, say, like an 18-year-old who came up to you and wanted to get some advice on doing what you do, breaking into the industry that you're in, what kind of advice would you give that person?
Very first one, it's something you mentioned in the intro is find your why.
Mm,
If you're, and your why can be monetary, but I think if that's your only why, I don't think that space that you're trying to enter is for you. There has to be something a little deeper, a little more
yeah.
ingrained. So find your why first, even if it's not a fully developed one, right? Like if it's just, for me, personal training, I saw obesity as a big problem. And you see the number rising year by year. You see people just exhibiting lower amounts of healthy behaviors. And that was my why. I just wanted to help people be healthy, right? And that's very broad. And then but it changes as the years go. You find your niche, you find,
Exactly.
the way you find the ways you want to do it. That's that. And then I would tell them to just be unrelenting. Um,
Hmm.
the best way to
Interesting.
do the best way to do business is to just do business and then figure out what works best for you and your business later, as time
Hmm.
develops. Trends change, science changes, information technology, everything is so just on a constant cycle of change. You got to just dive in.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. Totally agree. But I do want to ask still, like, what inspired you to become a coach? Was it just to help people better themselves, or is there a like deeper why?
Well, there's always a deeper why, right?
Yeah.
I in college I majored in psychology. My degree's in psychology. I've had a few career changes through. I wasn't always just like a personal trainer, health coach, right? I started in psychology and was trying to become a therapist because that's what I thought was going to be the best way to help. Then I jumped into teaching, thinking that would be the best way to help. And side jobs in between. But I've always coached and I've always trained as the side hustle. And, you look back, I'm a pretty introspective person. I like to always just be diving into my thoughts and thinking and running through the mill of that. There's that subconscious desire to provide something that wasn't provided for you as a child. Not that
Yeah,
I
there
didn't
we
have
go.
coaches. Yeah, not that I didn't have coaches. My dad did everything he could. I'm very grateful for the people that are in my life, but when you have a lack of resources or if you have a lack of direct mentorship where someone really buys into you as a person,
Hmm.
if you didn't get that, my inspiration originally was like, let me be that for someone who doesn't get the
Right.
same kind of thing. My resources and my mentorship came a lot later once I knew how to ask for it.
I
Once I
see.
knew,
Hmm.
yeah. So,
Interesting.
that inspiration, definitely that. And then, yeah, I think, on this planet, everybody has a purpose. Where everyone's here for some kind of reason. And so for me, wanting to help people was the fundamental piece of it. But then learning more about health and just the way my brain is wired to understand science and the body and all those things, I found out that that was my path to do it. Um, and so,
Mm.
yeah,
Like that, would you say that helped push you forward? That helped
for
accelerate
sure,
things?
for
Right,
sure.
right.
Yeah.
Mm. You've talked about having mentors later in life, not so much early on. But who has been the most important mentor or even just influence in your life? And what's one lesson that you think everyone should hear from them?
I had a business professor in my JUCO years. And this was even before I was at Folsom Lake College doing school part time. I hadn't started my clock yet for playing. So I was just doing some classes here and there, just getting the feel of college. And I had a business professor. His name is Bernard Gibson, the second. I even think he had another name. I think he had like three names. He was like this super just distinguished name, right? And his personality and his ways of teaching matched his name, right? Um, oh, his name was Aurelius Bernard Gibson II.
What a name.
What a name, right? And to this day, I can reach out to him and, for a piece of advice or just to say, hey, he's a really good dude. I found out after him being my teacher, I found out he lives in the same town as me.
Oh,
Yeah,
what a
he knew
small
my
world.
dad. He knew my dad. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So anyways, in those classes, he's teaching business 101, marketing 101, or I even took like a third class of his just so that I could soak up his information. Like I said, I was a psych major, but I was just like, this dude is just feeding me gems. Um, and he really emphasized, he just had a certain way of explaining things. He wrote his own textbook, and it was so simple. Yeah, but it was so simple. How now you can find those quick, pamphlet-like books,
Oh
that
yeah,
are
yeah, yeah.
100 pages, 80 to 100 pages, and they're just straight to the meat and potatoes, right? There's no fluff. And that's what he did, and he had a way of articulating it in class to be able that was the expansion. The fluff was in class where it's like, okay, now we're gonna talk about what you actually learned. And there was two main takeaways I got from him is one, and this is the one I would impart to everybody is one, always have a plan, right? No matter what you're doing, have some type of plan and end goal so that you just know where you're going and if there's a mistake or if there's a barrier, what step that happened at. And so
Hmm.
you can plan the redirection. The classic saying of like sometimes you gotta move backwards, go left twice, go up, and then back to the right, and then you can move forward again, right?
Right, right.
And then the other one was it wasn't necessarily anything that he said, but in class, if you didn't read the textbook, he would make it incredibly apparent. So he forced participation in his class, and so she would call randomly down his roll sheet. He would just call in your name, and if you tried to BS him, oh, he would just dive into what you're thinking. He would just sit there and nitpick at your logic and your thinking, and basically expose the fact that you didn't read without saying, "Hey, man, you didn't read."
R- Right.
And so that just in my head, that made me just learn that lesson of like, man, you really have to know what you're talking about in this world. It's ironic being on a podcast. I've always had this idea, this thought about podcasters and podcasting. A lot of them are out here just spewing nonsense, and almost not even necessarily nonsense, but just like senseless stuff where it's like now that it's just like, why are you on a podcast right now? What do we do? What is this platform for? Right. This one is awesome because we're having real conversations. We're talking about career. We're trying to give advice to young people. And that's what I
100%.
think,
Help
that's
inspire.
the inspire. But you see some of those other podcasts, and I'm just like, man, you don't actually have substance to talk about. You're just on here babbling.
It's like they feed into the doom scrolling.
100%. It's doom scrolling in real time.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, 100%. And that's not to say that people can't have their own platform and do what they want with
Of
that
course, of
platform.
course.
But yeah, I think we need to weed out some of this, people that aren't doing their due diligence to provide actual substance and information.
Was there ever an opportunity that you missed that you wish you took, looking back at it?
Yes, going pro in basketball.
Mm. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So after my senior year, it's so funny because my senior year of college was actually my worst year of playing. I was just injured, uh, you know, so many different things kind of play into having a bad season, right? But overall in my
Yeah,
college
yeah.
career, I did really, really well. I'm in a 1,000 point club. My sophomore year, I averaged a double double. I had a lot of success. I was team captain. I had a lot of accolades. I had been to national tournaments, and so I had this opportunity after my senior year, um, to not necessarily. I didn't have a direct offer to go overseas, but I had those invites to a workout, or hey, this agent wanted to have a conversation, or I had a couple guys that I knew was like, hey, I can plug you in here, and I didn't take the opportunity. to even
Yeah,
pursue it, right? Like whether I went pro or not,
I
there's so
see.
much that goes into that. It's,
Hmm.
a lot of it is a political game. It's who you know. It's, you just might not be the position they need in that roster. You get hurt, right? There's so many things. But to not pursue it and try my best at it was the opportunity that I missed for sure.
Interesting. So are you saying
Yeah.
you had opportunities come your way, but you
Hmm.
didn't even try to take advantage of those opportunities?
No, I didn't.
So let's flip the page and talk about the parts of your life outside of your career that have shaped you and just who you are today. First question I want to ask is, do you carry any lessons from your upbringing into how you live your life now?
Well, of course, we are a culmination of our experiences. It's funny, I'm actually reading a book right now. The book I'm into is on epigenetics, which a snapshot of what that is basically just the expression of our genetic code through our environment and the external factors that is our eating, behavior, thinking, so on and so forth. And so it's got me thinking a lot about, how my past shaped me, right? Can I quote what my sixth grade coach said that made me work harder? Absolutely not. But, I can say that, getting cut all 4 years of high school was huge, right? I can say that, just having to bounce around as an AAU kid from like 10 to 18, just having to bounce around teams and find somewhere to play just so I can fulfill that want and desire shaped me. The tragedies in my life have shaped, everything plays a role. Um, I would say though, I've thought a lot about what influences a lot of things for me, and I think back to my mom. My mom was big into gardening, and she would spend just hours in our backyard, hands in the dirt. She would have bees on her, lizards, butterfly. Like, she would have insects and whoever, whatever, ants, everything would be on her skin. She'd be dirt all over, and it just kind of, look, yeah, and it's part of that. That was part of why I'm so healthy. It was I grew up, we didn't have a lot of money to do grocery shopping, and I think it's part of why my mom also gardened and grew vegetables because it allows my parents to put food on the plate. But it was organic, right? It was organic food. It was, hey, we have a colorful diet. And I think that was a big influence on me taking health very seriously because, seeing the science about that now, I'm like, okay, that aligns.
Yeah,
But it
nice.
also it also taught me the appreciation for all things and just kind of having oneness with everything, right? You talk about people being scared of insects. Insects have all the right on this planet that we do.
Right.
And a lot of them, evolutionarily speaking, were here before us. And it's, and my mom was a great example of just that oneness with everything that's here and just kind of accepting the natural flow of our existence.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
eh, it's that classic saying of if you fight the current, you're gonna drown. And so just kind of, for whatever reason, right? Just seeing her hands in the dirt and bugs crawling on her and her having no fear. I remember asking her as a kid, I'm like, "Are you not scared of getting stung by a bee?" And she's like, "Well, if I don't threaten them, why should I feel threatened back?" And so, that's something major that has definitely stuck with me, especially now, like into my, mid 30s. I'm like, yeah, that's what life's about.
I like that. Yeah. Beautifully said, man.
Appreciate it.
Uh, yeah, I mean, talk about living life to its fullest, but also just being fearless, right? Um, Almost as a child, very childlike. What you don't
Hmm.
know won't hurt you. If you don't know bees can sting you, why would I be scared of a bee
Yeah,
sting?
yeah, 100%.
um, yeah, that's awesome. I like that. Um, when you think about the family you want to build, what's something that you want to do differently from, say, your childhood or how you grew up?
From childhood, I would say just using my parents as an example, bless their hearts. They did everything they absolutely could. And for context, my mom passed away when I was in high school, and so now I just kind of have my dad now.
Mm.
And my man,
Sorry to hear that.
it's all good. Life happens as it must. There's cookies crumble the way they crumble, and we have to just make sense of the order. Um, and my dad, shout out to him, he's about to retire and move away with his new life, and he's super happy and good. Uh, but early on, they gave me everything they had, but what they had wasn't a whole lot. Um, and so that lesson that I take from that is just, man, before I have kids, I want to have as many resources collected as possible. Um,
Yeah.
I want my kid to have a full tool belt.
Mm. I like that.
100%. Yeah, it's not about money for me, it's about resources. I wanna be able to say, "Hey, kid, you wanna work." My son comes to me and says, "Hey, dad, I want a job in this type of industry." I wanna have someone I can call and enter.
Mm.
I wanna be able to say my son asks, "Hey, dad, what are you doing, with the door there? Like, what are you fixing?" I wanna be able to have the tools and the ability and know-how to teach him that. I want obviously money is important. I want to be able to provide whatever sport they want to play, or if they have a new art project that they're into, like I want to be able to buy those things for them so that they can have the resources necessary to have some success and happiness and fulfillment. I think as from a personal standpoint, I think for me, what I need to do different is have systems in place, better systems in place, just be a little bit more organized in my personal life. I'm very freestyle based. And it's easy to do that. Well, I'm single. I have no kids right now, so it's very
Right.
easy to. And I have, the only thing that's super organized is like my health, my workouts, my diet, my water consumption. Those kind. You and I have talked and DM'd about nutrition and stuff.
Yep. Yep.
All that's dialed in, but just why do we making my bed the first time, right when I wake up, right? Like, or I need to get here by this, just time scheduling, time management.
You're
I'm
right.
very freestyle right now. And before I become a father, I'd like to be a little bit more system based, so they can have that
Yeah.
structure.
Hone in on those things. Yeah. Yeah. No,
Absolutely.
that's fair. That's fair. Very strategic. And which isn't a bad thing.
No, no.
Um, do you think you've this is kind of a deeper question. I normally I'd save these a little bit for the end, like the last two, but I'm gonna ask this right now. Do you think you become the person your younger self would look up to?
I think so. To a degree. To a
Hmm.
degree, for sure. I think, I idolize basketball from a very young age. And so seeing myself as like a trainer, a coach, someone who, I don't, not to toot my horn, but I'm still very good at basketball. And so as a kid, if I could see,
I'm like,
um,
yeah, I know.
thank you. And so, yeah, as if I could, see myself at, 12 years old, I would, if I saw myself at a camp and be like, oh, that's my camp coach. Yeah, I think that would be cool. Cause, in the basketball world, I think I check a lot of those boxes too. I got sneakers. I pride myself on dressing myself well and looking the part of a trainer or a coach. And so, yeah, I think so. And on the personal side, I try my best to communicate well, and show empathy, and connect with anyone that I interact with, especially kids. I think,
Hmm.
for me, being able to be a responsible, strong role model for any kid that I come into contact with is super important,
Yeah.
because like I said, everything shapes and molds us some way or another, and I'll be damned if I'm not a good influence on the kids that I come across.
Yeah. Yeah. That's deep. Because the last thing you want to be is the person that the kid remembers in a bad way, right? Or in a negative light.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, and you can't
um,
control that,
it's
not
true.
everyone is for everyone, but I'm gonna do my
Right.
best.
Right. Right, right, and
Yeah,
that's all that matters at the end of the day.
absolutely, absolutely.
If your parents, both of them, if they were sitting here right now, what do you think they'd say they're proud of? Like, and of course, with them being parents,
Mhm.
what would they still be trying to fix about you?
Man, my dad was huge on saving money.
Okay.
And so being that I'm a little bit of a sneakerhead and a clothing monger, my closet is packed. She would definitely just try to fix my spending habits. Um,
That's fair.
he's always asking me, he's like, "Are you saving money? Are you saving money?" I'm like, "Dude, like, leave me alone a little bit."
Right, right. Let me
Yeah.
live.
But yeah, 100%. Let me live a little, man. I'm doing all right. My bills are paid. Like, I'm good.
Exactly.
Um, you know, and my mom, you know, I, I think my mom would be super proud of me. And what I think she would be proud of what I believe in and what I'm trying to do, like my mission.
Mm,
I think that's where she would find the most pride. She tried so hard to, both of them tried to sell the white collar, go to college, get the safe job and all that stuff.
yeah, yeah.
But I think the way things have unfolded in our society, I think it's important that we leave impact and pursue passion too. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think they'd be proud of that now. Just considering how things. I know my dad's proud of me. He's told me. So it's yeah. I think it would be the mission, like what I believe in and what I stand for, is what they'd be most proud of.
Mm. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Is there a would you say there's a chapter of your life that you don't talk about often? But one that really shaped you into, who you are today, into who Austin truly is?
Yeah, absolutely. From 16 years old to about 20. Which is right before 2021 is when I started my JUCO journey. So I sat out after high school. I sat out 2 years for tons of reasons. So 16 is when my mom passed away, and after that, I mean, as anyone can imagine, it just turned into some dark years. Some really
Yeah.
dark years, some really bad decisions. Things that I'm not proud of. Things that if at the time I was coaching, it's people are like, "Nah, we don't want you to be our coach, right? You're not setting a good example." Um, you know, and so that it would take a 5-hour podcast to really get through all of that stuff. And I've lived a lot of life. Those are the years that I try to use as the lessons of like what not to do anymore. Sometimes if I feel it's appropriate, I'll tell a story to a kid as an example of like, "Hey, man, I get what you're going through. X,
Right.
Y, and Z, and obviously it's you got to tell the age appropriate version of the story, because of
Of course.
emotional readiness and maturity, and so yeah, there's a solid block of my life that doesn't get highlighted as much anymore, but that's life, right? That was now 10 years ago. I have another 10, another decade under my belt to reference and talk about and to focus on. So absolutely, and
Yeah.
I just wanna
Yeah.
say that basketball saves my life.
Interesting. Okay. That
That
was going
was
to be my
that.
follow-up question
Yeah,
is how did you get through it?
basketball. Obviously, I had enough of my mother and my dad both, and my dad, he went through his dark stage after my mom died because that was his high school sweetheart. Um, they she was 44, he was 45, and they had been together since they were 16.
Jeez.
Yeah, so, he did the best he did everything he could in his power at that point to, keep the roof over my head and be there for me, but he was going through his own grieving process and journey. Um, so for me, I had to rely on basketball was my savior. And then, I had
Your outlet.
enough of my
Mm.
yeah, and I had enough of my mom early in life for her lessons and the values that she taught me, and ingrained in me to kind of keep me from diving deep into the wrong path, right? I tiptoed, that dark path and bad decisions, and I tiptoed it. But what kept me from a deep dive was those values that she taught me in basketball, for sure.
Were you able to lean on your dad in times like that, or when that happened?
Uh, yes and no. If I needed him, he would be there. But I would say, emotional intelligence and our emotional connection at that time was not uh, at the
Yeah,
height.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's a very classic dude in the sense that it's like, hey, I go to work, I provide, and I'm there for you physically, but just yeah, that deeper emotional connection. I mean, him and I have definitely gone leaps and bounds beyond that now. Now that I'm an adult and I can consider him like my friend. Um, but yeah, at that time, I was kind of on my own, and I had people. Obviously, I had a couple of people at my school that were looking out, and everything, but it's like, man, there's no one that can pull you out of the mud but yourself at the end of the day,
Right,
anyways.
right, right.
You have to, even if it's like you're using someone's advice, it still has to be you using that advice.
And applying it, right? Like actually
100%.
doing it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You have to bootstrap it. Have to.
yeah, yeah. 100%. Man, very well said.
Yeah.
um, yeah, thanks for sharing that. I know it's a little bit tougher to talk about, but I really appreciate you being vulnerable with that. We've talked about your work, your relationships, and the lessons that shaped you. Before we close this chapter, I want to leave people with one piece of you they might not normally see, or hear about, I should say. And so the last question I ask every guest is, when was the last time you truly felt at peace, and what made that moment possible?
Wow. My time at peace is one of my sisters lives in Michigan, and she's married, she's got two kids, so my niece and my nephew, and that's probably when I feel most at peace is when I'm there with them,
Mm,
because it's always vacation mode. I get to
right.
go there and I just get to be uncle. I
Mm,
get to go there. I get to truly be myself. I get to just relax. As much as I can, I don't work. I leave my phone down, and I just really dive into the moment with my family. And that's probably that at peace moment.
yeah.
Because when I'm here, I'm in go mode. Well, I am, I am where I wake up. I wake up at 5 a.m. and I start working. And I don't really turn it off until I get home later. Some nights I don't get home till 10. It's about to be basketball season, so yeah, yeah.
It's gonna be one of those nights every night, right? Like,
Oh yeah, it don't stop because you got to go from high school to AAU, and then I got trainings the next morning. It's go mode over
man,
it here.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But that's good though. It's good, and routine is
yeah,
always good too, right?
it is
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Well, Austin, thanks for once again being here. It was great having you on. Like I said, I really appreciate you just taking the time out of your day and just being willing. If there's anything you'd like to shout out, your business, new or upcoming that you have going on, or just shout yourself out, let the people know.
And I got shouts out for the people, man. Shouts out to you and everybody else, man. My business will grow as it needs to. I don't need to
Mm.
plug myself or anything.
All right, real humble guy. I appreciate that though. No, that's
Of
cool.
course. Yeah, of course.
Well,
I
thank you.
appreciate the opportunity.
Uh-huh. Of course,
Yeah.
of course, anytime. And thank you for everyone out there for joining us on this episode of Life Unedited. If you know someone whose story you want to hear or have questions you'd love me to ask future guests, let me know in the comments down below. But until next time, I'll catch y'all later. Peace.